Happy Friday, members of the Altcoin Buzz Army and TGIF. We have some major news today from the likes of JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon, who are straight up saying that the staking component alone of Ethereum 2.0 is in and of itself a $40 billion industry. We also have big updates, two major ones, in fact, from VeChain that we're going to launch right into at the top of this video. And then, very surprisingly, but in the best kind of way, an unbelievable partnership for our friends over at StormX, ticker STMX, with none other than the NBA. In fact, more specifically, the Portland Trailblazers. Prices are kind of doing their thing. It's looking a little bit underwhelming today, but behind the scenes, there is so much positivity. So on this Friday, sit back, relax. If you like this kind of content, Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and altcoins, be sure to like and subscribe to Altcoin Buzz News. I have to say, honestly, I'm puzzled, because there is still a little bit of FUD floating around. You may have heard about Binance now being expelled from the Cayman Islands. The officials there saying the platform is no longer welcome in that jurisdiction. Add to that other jurisdictions, Japan, the province of Ontario, the United Kingdom. Binance is running into kind of local trouble here and there. Okay, so there's a little bit of FUD, there's a little bit of bad news. There's, on the more speculative side of things, there's news about the Soros fund moving into Bitcoin. There's all the positives surrounding Ethereum, and now a lot of other altcoins. In my opinion, at least, biased as it may be, I do feel that the positives outweigh the negatives, and yet here we are, again, down 3.3%. Is it just part of the Wyckoff distribution? Are we just in that end phase of sort of phase C right now, getting into that spring territory, phase D and phase E? It's possible. I'm looking at it as, let it dip, the price of Bitcoin that is. As long as it stays above 30K, then I'm feeling, that resolve that we are in fact following that Wyckoff distribution pattern. It remains to be seen. But, that's kind of the only explanation that I have, is that we're kind of almost on rails on that particular distribution until we spring back up, because with all the positive news, I don't see why we're down 3.3%. Nevertheless, Ethereum is still above $2,000. Bitcoin, at the time of this recording, $33.1 thousand. Let's move into some positive news, taking a look at some of the altcoins in particular that have really taken a hit. Some of our favorites remain our favorites because they're still doing all the great legwork behind the scenes. They're still building up. They're still doing fantastic things. Case in point, VeChain right here with a couple of big updates, courtesy of Cointelegraph. San Marino has approved VeChain's digital COVID certificate, which records pandemic-related medical history on the blockchain and is reportedly verifiable worldwide. I have some actually mixed thoughts about this, which we'll get into in just a second. It's great for VeChain and it's great for that system's development and that initiative, but I have some mixed thoughts about this. At VeChain Official, together with DNV Assurance, we hereby announce the world's first national level ENFT, that's non-fungible token adoption. The Republic of San Marino has just approved the digital COVID certificate issued using NFTs through the VeChain Thor public blockchain. So this story in full here on medium.com. The San Marino Great and General Council approves Decree Law number 109 of the 16th of June, which puts in place its own green vaccination pass. This equips citizens, residents, and other vaccinated in the territory with a certificate in line with the European Union standards. The San Marino Digital COVID Certificate covers vaccination against SARS-CoV-2, past infection, or negative test results. The certificate issued has a validity of 1 week starting 15 days after the first vaccination dose, or 9 months from the completed vaccination cycle. The certificate is issued upon personal request in a paper or digital format by the ISS or facilities authorized by the San Marino health authorities. On the one hand, first and foremost, congratulations to VeChain. This is, I think, a bit of a controversial application here, but VeChain is the platform. VeChain is the technology that these particular San Marino officials felt would be the best to tackle this particular project. So that's at the level of VeChain, at the level of the tech and the project. Kudos to them. Sunny Liu, we'll see his quote in just a second. On the other hand, I don't like this look of cryptocurrency kind of flying in the face of, just not even libertarian standards that this space was all kind of built on, but just kind of the basic premise of personal privacy. I'll give you guys an anecdotal example, right? And this is only just an anecdote, but I am not vaccinated. I will not get vaccinated. I choose not to get vaccinated, not because I'm afraid of the jab, but because I have medical complications. I was in hospital for months and months and months at about the age of 18 with long-term follow-up, and not by means of some kind of motorcycle accident or whatever, but a freak neurological thing that happened to me. I won't get into details, but basically I'm not allowed to take vaccinations. I'm not even allowed to get a flu shot. And even if I were, to me, it comes down to, personal accountability and personal agency. So if I choose to, that's fine. But I don't like this idea personally of these vaccine passports. And this is kind of what I'm reading into here, that this is basically what it is, according to European Union standards, whatever those are. I don't like the idea of these vaccine passports being enforced on individuals. You're hearing more and more about concerts, about events where you must show proof of XYZ. What happens when that extends into getting food at the supermarket or getting service at a bank? I think it's absolutely preposterous. And even if there is some nuance to accommodate for people with medical exceptions like myself, that's not cool. Like these individuals, that are signing up for this voluntarily, okay, that's how it starts. But when it gets to a point where you have to show your papers everywhere you go, look, maybe that's just my opinion. Maybe some of you or many of you or most of you will disagree with me on this point, but I don't think that anybody is entitled to my medical history, even if I were eligible for the jab or whatnot. I don't want to turn this into a whole medical thing, but I don't like the direction that this is going in this case, cryptocurrency kind of forgetting where it came from and arguably, to be hyperbolic for just a second, kind of paving the way for, in my opinion, a little bit of technological tyranny, personally speaking. Anyways, not to open a whole can of worms, I just wanted to, on the one hand, congratulate VeChain, but on the other hand, kind of take pause and see what you guys think about that. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. I am unapologetically anti-vaccine passport. No problem with vaccines, but look, consult a doctor, right? Consult your personal physician. In my case, the recommendation is to avoid them at all costs because unless it's a life or death situation, the relapse into my previous condition could be very, very, very serious. In fact, life-threatening. If that's not the case for you, fine. And if you're, a more compromised individual, if you're older, I totally get it. If you're a much younger individual and you're very healthy, then, maybe there's a case to be made there as well. Anyways, consult your doctor. So not really to get any more into that, but it is certainly a contentious topic. So I am curious to hear your thoughts. You can read more about it here on newsbtc.com. VeChain announces the world's first national ENFT adoption and why it could be huge for VET. Actually, to go back just a second, I did mention that we'd hear from Sunny Liu, or at least get his point of view. He is, of course, the CEO of VeChain. He said, quote, "Not long after we brought up the idea of enterprise NFT, digital COVID certificates presents a perfect case in this sector, which is also a new solution to help the government gain ground in the fight against COVID-19. Based on POA consensus, VeChain Thor public blockchain becomes a well-balanced infrastructure for the government, public, and private sectors to work together to create a single standardized verification system network." I don't like that personally. To me, it's a personal decision. If you choose to do it, then good on you. You're protected, but leave other people alone. Okay, switching gears into less controversial topics, let's discuss Ethereum right now. Ethereum 2.0 specifically, which is starting to raise a lot of eyebrows in a good way, starting to turn a lot of heads. First of all, Ethereum supply on exchanges is at its lowest since November 2017. So the last 2.5 years now, we're seeing record lows of Ethereum on exchanges, which translates into fewer and fewer people being willing right now to sell. Are we at sort of a bottomed out level for the price of Ethereum right now at just over $2,000? Possibly. Look, it could go lower, but the trend right now in the pattern certainly suggests that fewer and fewer people are willing to sell. The lowest ETH exchange level since November 2018. Next up, we have a metric that is a little bit of an oscillator. It kind of goes up, it kind of goes down with relation to the Bitcoin metric of interest right here. But nevertheless, I think still significant. Ethereum has now flipped Again, Bitcoin, in terms of the number of active addresses, so this is based on data from Glassnode, they've told us that there's been a decline in the number of Bitcoin active addresses on the blockchain network, actually a sharp decline. As Bitcoin struggles to break bullish, this news may mean further downside to the flagship cryptocurrency. Possibly, without speculating about that, the observation is that the number of active Ethereum addresses has caught up in light of these statistics that we're seeing out of Bitcoin. So maybe not a great story in terms of Bitcoin numbers, but one that Ethereum is taking advantage of. Don't forget that talk of the flippening is still very much active in a lot of circles. Bitcoin, just kind of following that big crash in mid-May, has caught up in terms of its dominance, because the altcoins, although Bitcoin fell, the altcoins actually fell quite a bit more and bled that much more. So at one point we were almost at a 2-to-1 in terms of Bitcoin versus Ethereum dominance. But as you can see right now, that ratio has expanded. Bitcoin at just about nearly 3 times the dominance of Ethereum right now, as I record, Bitcoin at 44.3% with Ethereum at 17% flat. But over the long term, it is possible, I wouldn't say likely, but it is possible that Ethereum catches up and perhaps even eclipses Bitcoin, especially as, by virtue rather of its nature as a platform rather than a digital asset. And you have individuals like Mike Novogratz that are starting to talk about those kinds of things here on markets.businessinsider.com. Novogratz discussed smart regulation and educating politicians about it, as well as why Ether could become the biggest cryptocurrency in a recent interview. Here are his 10 best quotes. We're not going to go over all 10 of those quotes, but a couple in particular stuck out to me. Here they are. At number 3, Ethereum most likely becomes the second biggest, or maybe the biggest cryptocurrency one day. Well, it already is the second biggest, so I guess maybe becomes the biggest is what he's trying to say. But with very different use cases, it's going to be used as the base level of trust. And the amount of innovation that's going to come out, that's being built on top of the Ethereum platform, or one of these platforms, is going to blow your mind away in the next 5 years. And by extension, the argument goes that yes, Bitcoin is always going to be that digital store of value, that digital gold. It's a message that we've parroted now, that I have been repeating and regurgitating like a broken record for years on, well, not this channel, this is a new channel, but via the altcoin buzz sort of media apparatus. Bitcoin will be digital gold. Mike Novogratz feels that's going to be the case for 3,000 years, but Ethereum can still surpass it, because the argument is that Ethereum is a little bit more than just digital gold, more than a store of value and more than an asset. It is a platform after all. And so all this chatter is starting to percolate down into the hedge fund managers at a time where Ethereum 2.0 is really becoming a strong talking point and an attractive one, right? An alluring sort of proposition for many. Also on markets.businessinsider.com, Skybridge Capital's Anthony Scaramucci says he's launching an Ethereum fund and will file for an ETF as well. Lots of people, I think, are going to follow in this individual's, in Scaramucci's footsteps. No surprise there. JP Morgan coming out with this figure. They're reporting that Ethereum 2.0 could kickstart a $40 billion staking industry by 2025. That doesn't even sound like a big number, to be honest. As per investing.com, the launch of the energy-efficient Ethereum 2.0 network will popularize the proof-of-stake consensus mechanisms as opposed to proof-of-work, and are going to make staking yields a more attractive source of income for both institutional and retail investors, according to a new JP Morgan report. The authors estimate that holders of staked coins on POS blockchains are currently generating some $9 billion in revenue annually from their staked holdings. I look at it as kind of just a matter of time until the rest of the world wakes up to this phenomenon. Most people that, you kind of, let's say, have a random conversation with off the street, I think most or the majority would be unaware of the advantages or even the mechanics of staking. Look, I had my ETH stake, which is allocated weekly, come in last night. I tabulated sort of my total, and there it is. I have a certain fraction of my total. In my case, I think it's 6.5%. That I'm accruing on an annual basis. So that's 6.5% APY. I mean, just do some quick mental math. Let's say for nice round numbers, you've been in the space for years, you've saved up, you've made successful trades, you've held on. Let's say one day Ethereum is just worth a higher amount than it is today, okay? And without talking about the number of Ether that you may hold, let's say for the sake of argument, you hold $1 million worth of Ethereum. That's great. Let's say that's a comfortable amount and you're happy to spend some of that accrued interest. Well, to use that figure that I just invoked a moment ago, 6.5%. How much is 6.5% of $1 million? In other words, if you hold $1 million of an asset and you're accruing guaranteed 6.5% annually in staking interest, in US dollar terms, that's $65,000 per year. So just the passive income component alone here is absolutely remarkable. And it's unlike any other structure that the majority of those people that never heard of staking, right? It's unlike any other structure that they've probably ever seen or probably have ever heard of. So it's no doubt that Ethereum is going to kickstart this $40 billion staking industry. I'd be surprised if it's only $40 billion. That doesn't even sound like much. JP Morgan says Ethereum upgrades could jumpstart a $40 billion staking industry. Flying in the face of crypto skeptic, JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon, two senior analysts at his firm argued against him in a report this week that as blockchains running more energy efficient networks than Bitcoin and Ethereum increase in popularity, a new way to make money called staking will gain traction as a source of revenue for institutional and retail investors alike. Because why not? You know, I've said now for years that if you're not availing yourself of the staking opportunities, of the passive income opportunities in cryptocurrency, you're doing it wrong. Like that is what this space, at least in part, is made for. And that's why DeFi is proliferating to the extent that it is. That's why it's going to swallow up slowly, one by one, and then rapidly every other bank and institution out there in the world because it does a better job at what it is it's trying to do than those old, inefficient dinosaur legacy structures. Now, can staking go on forever? I don't think so. I think mathematically, I don't have exactly sort of a Monte Carlo simulation that can tell you exactly what's going to happen in 10 years or 20 years or for 40 or 50 years. I think eventually the returns are going to have to be tapered down a little bit and be made more modest, but that infrastructure is still plenty appealing and there's plenty of money to be made via staking for the time being. So $40 billion by 2025. That's not according to me. That's not according to other cryptocurrency YouTubers. That's what JP Morgan has to say. You guys can also read about that here. Upgrades to the Ethereum network could turn crypto staking into a $40 billion industry by 2025. At least that's kind of my point of view. In terms of big institutional and big investment house news, we also have this now out of Germany, which is something you may have heard about on cryptobriefing.com. According to new German law, there is a path now towards $415 billion potentially of crypto investment. So until today, and this was printed yesterday, so until the 1st of July, German funds were actually barred from investing in crypto. However, and in a very significant way, a new law has passed which now allows funds to allocate up to 20% of their assets to the cryptocurrency asset class. So this opens up, after you do the calculations, the floodgates potentially for $415 billion to flow into cryptocurrency. Germany has shown a willingness to work with crypto, recently allowing Coinbase to hold assets for German customers. And Germany has a significant economic influence, of course, for the rest of Europe. A new German law called the Fund Allocation Act allows all specialized investment funds to invest up to 20% of their $2 trillion in assets under management in cryptocurrency. Even if it's not exactly $415 billion, it's going to be a good chunk of change that's flowing into the space. No doubt about it. 4,000 different German funds are now eligible. They can start investing in cryptocurrency. There's also this news that is kind of peripheral to that, but very much related and very similar, also on cryptobriefing.com. Mercado Bitcoin lands $200 million investment from SoftBank. The investment values Mercado Bitcoin's parent company at $2.1 billion. So this is Japanese multinational SoftBank. They've invested $200 million in the parent company of Brazilian crypto exchange Mercado Bitcoin. More on that here, CryptoPotato.com. SoftBank invests $200 million in Brazil's largest cryptocurrency exchange. And so as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, market is kind of down for a second day in a row because what? Because of a small amount of Binance FUD Yet we have this arguably positive VeChain news. We have very, very positive Ethereum news. We have positive investment news out of Germany, positive investment news now with regard to SoftBank and Brazil's largest exchange. You also have positive news, depending on how you look at it, but I think the Soros Fund, obviously a very controversial fund, wealth fund right there, but they're purportedly eyeing different forms of cryptocurrency, not only Bitcoin, but other cryptos as well. And so you take all these things together, is it any wonder here on news.bitcoin.com that according to a recent survey, 26% of financial advisors now recommend cryptocurrencies over the next 12 months. This figure was, like not even 5% a year ago, 2 years ago, several years ago. I don't think it would have even registered. Like you could have probably asked 500 different financial advisors and like maybe one or two, but probably more likely zero would have suggested cryptocurrencies as far as a serious asset class in which to invest. And yet now all of a sudden, a quarter of recently surveyed financial advisors. So they said that their investing strategies show, quote, a significant shift to embracing cryptocurrencies. More than 26% indicated that they plan to increase their recommendation of cryptos in the next 12 months. Furthermore, 49% of advisors said that clients have asked them about investing in cryptocurrencies in the last 6 months. That's where the pressure comes from, right? Maybe only 26% of their own volition are, suggesting or pushing cryptocurrencies, but ultimately they have to respond to client demand. And if 50% of clients just about are requesting some exposure to cryptocurrency, well, I think that 26% figure is going to go up. So that's at the level of the macro, guys. I think a pretty positive global macro level picture right now. We can talk about some of the other failings of the traditional systems. Inflation is still an issue. The White House just put out a preposterous tweet about how technically the cost of a July 4th barbecue has decreased since last year, but so marginally. And it's the kind of thing that the fact that they're celebrating it is so weak and pathetic and cringy and weird. All of the issues that we talked about today have to be considered in the context of ongoing inflation, ongoing money printing, ongoing quantitative easing, and there's other strife and political issues you can talk about. But all of this positive news is only kind of reinforced in the sense that it's against the backdrop of some negative potential legacy financial news. That's at least how I look at it. Going a little bit more micro now, a favorite project of ours that we haven't really discussed in a little while, it's sort of been off everybody's radar, has been StormX, ticker STMX. So at a time when the market, unfortunately, is still down 3.3% on the day, let's do a quick refresh there. Market is now down 2.5%. StormX is up ever so slightly at about 2.1 cents. Now, StormX, to be fair, was much, much, much higher in the recent past, I suppose. As you can see here, StormX hit an all-time high kind of in early April of nearly 10 cents, a very, very significant price milestone. Now, unfortunately, down 80% since that all-time high. We've done quite a few videos on StormX in the past. They're a combination of gig economy. They're a combination of rewards and crypto rewards for purchases, in-app purchases with major brands, major retailers. We feel that StormX has a very, very bright future, kind of mid to small cap level, $200 million, as you can see right there. Well, I think they just have an opportunity right now to really propel themselves into the next strata, maybe a couple of stratas up in terms of their relevance to the cryptocurrency space, in terms of their reputation. Check this out on CNBC.com. Portland Trailblazers lands NBA's first cryptocurrency jersey patch deal. And this was one that surprised me because we're not talking about a top 10 cryptocurrency. We're not talking about even a top 50 cryptocurrency. With respect to StormX, they're ranked number 171. So for them to be the first cryptocurrency to land, again, officially on the front of the Portland jerseys here. So you have StormX and you have other insignia such as like Nike, but to be so prominently featured, a lot of people are going to start looking up StormX. They're going to be typing in STMX into their Google browsers. So this is huge. Cryptocurrency platform StormX will have a brand presence on the Portland Trailblazers game and practice jerseys and in-arena signage. It's the National Basketball Association's first cryptocurrency jersey sponsorship ever. So for StormX to be number one, to be featured ahead of any other of the major cryptos out there, That is surprising, but in a good way. Like, these guys are punching well above their weight with that kind of a result. Kudos to STMX. The crypto space has been active with sports sponsorships this year. On Tuesday, Formula One also agreed to a deal with Crypto.com, and FTX, as we've been discussing, took over the arena name for the Miami Heat in March. FTX also in a sponsorship deal with Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen, who to one degree or another are going to kind of be either unofficial or quasi-official ambassadors of Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX. But sticking to this story for the time being, just fantastic news. Trailblazers partner with StormX cryptocurrency. So this is kind of this is from yesterday, actually, the 1st of July. But get ready to hear more about STMX. Get ready for more people to be hungry to learn more about STMX. And that's speaking nothing of their growing ecosystem. The fact that, again, as I mentioned, if you're unfamiliar with STMX, check out our previous videos, but a combination of a gig economy kind of matching services and providers at a more casual level, but also retail rewards, brand awards, loyalty rewards through in-app crypto rewards. It's a pretty revolutionary project and one that we've been supportive of, and I have been supportive of at a personal level for quite a long time. So kudos to STMX. And that about rounds it out, guys, for today. We kind of started macro, went a little bit more micro. Let me know your thoughts about all that kind of stuff, including those controversial issues I brought up with regard to VeChain. I love VeChain. It's one of my top 5 favorite cryptocurrencies ever. But what I would hate would be for one of my favorites, the technology behind one of my favorites, to be used to usher in what I view to be light authoritarianism. Like, no thanks. I wouldn't vote for that. I wouldn't be supportive of that. And if, honestly, if that's the direction that any cryptocurrency moves in, whether it's VeChain or another one, maybe that would be a signal for me to divest. Maybe it'd be a signal for me to sell and pursue other projects. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. We're going to see how things play out. But let me know what you guys think about all that and other items that we brought up in the news today. A lot of positives, in my opinion, very much outshining the negatives that we have been dealing with. But the net positive right now is undeniable in crypto. Guys, be sure to keep following us on all the regular social media channels. Keep checking back into altcoinbuzz.io for all the latest. Like, subscribe, share. Hit the bell to receive notifications if you enjoyed today's video. Best of luck if you choose to invest. Although none of this is financial or investment advice, as you guys know. However, if you do choose to invest, I wish you great fortune and great prosperity. Check out these other videos that are popping up right about now if you haven't already done so. Stay safe, members of the Altcoin Buzz Army, TGIF, and as always, we do hope to see you again soon in our next video. Take care.